Hi, in this video I will show you how to configure the document coding system, and we'll go through document groups, document types, numbering, syntaxes, standard attributes, additional configurable attributes, and code sets. So first of all, let's have a look at the document group. So I go into Omega 365 setup, and here I have document groups. So the document group is very important because it's also used for managing access. So you define a document group, and then you say which roles should have access to this document group. You can also say what is the default syntax, and I'll show you very soon how document types and groups are tied together, and on document type that there you can further select which syntax to use, but the default value can be set at the document group level. The org unit here is basically just where the group is owned, maintained, so those who have access to this level can then, this org unit can then update these document groups. Which document groups are available is again via this document type and document types you publish to org unit, so I'll show you that soon. We have the possibility to close a document group. Then all the document types that are tied to this document group will not be selectable anymore when you update the document type. So of course for existing documents it doesn't have an impact on those, but you cannot change to these document types that are tied to this group. So let's have a look at document type, since it's a very close relation between document type and document group. So first, when you define a document type, you say which document group this type belongs to. Then you can also say which code set it belongs to. Code sets means that you can have different document types or different code sets, and we'll come back to that a little bit later in this video. We have the title, we have the org unit, and the org unit is where the document type is again administrated. Which org unit it's becoming available for is based on what org units it's published to. And here we support inheritance, so that if you publish it to org unit, all the sub-org units will also have this document type available. Then there are various key attributes or settings on the document type. We have this accessible for person. That means that documents of this document type is accessible for that person that document is assigned to, regardless of what document group it belongs to. That means, for example, if you have a timesheet or a travel expense or a salary sheet, then if that document is set up to be having this document type with this checked, then it's accessible for that person. So you can have a document which is not which is very limited. It belongs to a document group with very little general access, but the person that needs to have access to it gets access based on that the document is tied to that person. Documentation for operation, that means that all documents with this document type will by default get this flagged as this is a document for operation. However, you can fine-tune it or adjust it for the individual documents. The same thing with as-built required. Also on a document type you set which document numbering syntax to use. So there are some syntaxes that you can define, and we'll show you how these syntaxes works in a few moments. You can set which fields are required. So the document, you can still register the document without having all that required fields in place, but it will be marked as here there is something missing. When contractors are delivering documents, they will be allowed. It will not be allowed unless all the required fields are filled in. You can also say if this is a correspondence type of a document. So define also correspondence document types here. then it will appear in a separate register in the correspondence register. You can set the default review class for all documents of this document type. And if this document type is the default document type when you register a new document. Then we have auto-publish to domain, which can be used so that when you get in a document of this document type, all the org units within a domain is typically a project, will then get access to the documents because it's published to. And also you can close document types so that it's not possible to use for new documents. So numbering syntaxes, we have here the possibility then to define different numbering syntaxes. And the org unit here again means that this is where you administrate the syntax. It is available again depending on the document type. So if you have access to the document type which has been published to some org units, then you will be able to use this syntax. And the syntax definition is done like this, and I can click on it to get some help. I can choose then which fields to include in the syntax, and as you will see here that the document number in this case will first have the document type, then a dash, the originator code, dash receiver code, and then a sequence number. That is used in this case for the for correspondence. We have different options, and you can choose among all key fields in the document register. And you can choose a separator, but basically you also have the possibility to just write it down here if you want to do that. Sequence number is automatically identified, finding the available sequence number. It's also possible to set a sheet number, that the document is requiring to have a sheet number, and here you then register how many digits it should be in the sequence number and the sheet number. So, and as you saw when we register the document type, then you set which syntax to use. A document could have many different attributes, and which attributes can also differ depending on what type of project and what type of organization using the system. There are several standard attributes available, and one is the classification codes, which you can maintain here. You have discipline codes, and as you will see on both these and most of the other codes here, you can publish it to org units. So that means that it becomes available for them. We have same thing with main areas. We have project codes, originator codes, etc., etc. And in several cases, you have the need for more specific attributes depending on your type of project. And then we have two main possibilities. One is to use the code types. So in this case, I've defined 3 code types with corresponding attribute values or code values. So we have, for example, here SFI, typically used in the for ships or floating objects, and we have different values then that one can select. So here you could populate, of course, many more values like in addition, and these code types becomes then available in the document register. So if I go here to the document register, I will find SFI as a code, as a column. So I can choose SFI, and it will appear in the grid here, and I can populate values based on those codes that were associated with this SFI code type. And if I have a look at the document, we will find under settings other setup attributes, various attributes that are available, including SFI code. You will see also certification and client review class being something that we had configured in here as code types. Another option is to use the meta fields. Those are shared with complete. So on objects you have object types. So when you define meta fields, you can select that meta field 1 is a document type that, object type that you find here. And then the lookup values for this system type then, meta field 1, are all the objects tied to this object type. You can also say that this meta 1 field depends on another object type. So there's a possibility to kind of have a dependency between the different meta fields. You can define up to 15 currently meta fields. Finally, the system code is also possibility to store in the database, which is the value to store as the system code. And when we configure this, it will appear in the document register under asset attributes. So if I expand this, I will see that there are several fields available, and these are these meta fields that I had selected. And as I said, the meta fields are based on the object type. So the meta field that you select is an object type, and the object types are defined here under complete. And as you can see, we also support translations of these object types. So the objects are tied to an object type, and this information can then be used as attributes on the documents. In some organizations, it might be relevant to use code sets. Code sets enables you to have multiple instances with the same name, with a different description and different settings. So for example, you can have the same document type name used in different projects or different organizations, but they are assigned to different code sets and can therefore have different settings. So first of all, if you're going to use this feature, you define the code sets here, and then when you have a document type, for example, that you want to tie to a code set, you do that by selecting it from here. You do the same thing with such as the discipline codes, for example. And be aware that how these discipline codes and document types becomes available for the users is dependent on which org units they are published to. And then code sets enables you to reuse the same name but have different meaning. So it's not possible for me to register another ARC for architectural unless I set a specific code set for it. Okay, thank you for watching this video about how to configure Omega 365 document coding system.